Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to council here on a new winter day. Is anybody else getting tired of April feeling like December? Okay, it's not just me. Good. Can we have, this is the 13th meeting of the 140 or the 46th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? I'll let the folks at home know that Councillor Herbert is online with us here today. He's waving. Okay, great. If you tell us how warm it is where you are, Jim, we're not letting you come back.
It's 86 here.
Yeah. Where's my power button? Okay, we will now move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on March 16th, 26th, and 30th, 2026 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is strategic direction and development. First item relates to a bylaw to exempt the provisions of the Line Fences Act. I have a motion that report PD 2226 relating to a bylaw to exempt the provisions of the Line Fences Act in the City of St. Thomas be received for information, and further the council direct administration to prepare a bylaw stating that the Line Fences Act does not apply to any part of the city, noting the exception outlined in the act. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Reimel.
I just have one question. So if we, I don't have a problem with saying it doesn't apply. So will we also have the provision that cost sharing only if a 4-foot chain link fence is constructed like other people have?
That's a question. Mr. Pompili.
Well, through your worship, I'll give it a try. So if we pass the bylaw and exempt ourselves from this Line Fences Act, then there is without taking any other action, then there is no provision about cost sharing or a minimum of a 4-foot chain link fence. That would require a separate bylaw be enacted.
Go ahead, Councillor Reimel.
So then would we want to do that, or we would just leave it and see how it goes?
Yep, through your worship, I think what we're recommending here right now is to exempt ourselves from the act and not take any further action unless otherwise directed by council. We also will continue to monitor the situation. I'm sure we'll continue to get calls from neighbors that can't come up with an agreement or that continue to argue. And if there is a need to come forward with such a bylaw, or if there is a privately initiated request, that's something that we can do. But at this point, we're not recommending any further action.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Lou, I think I've sat in this chair just about 8 years, and I think I've heard fence bylaw once. So the fact that we're exempting ourselves from it probably is something we should have done years ago and just made it so that disputes are handled between neighbors and discussions. And if it has to go to mediation, it can easily go to mediation, but it doesn't have to be the city. That's the thought. Great.
Yep, through your worship, yes, that's exactly it. I think most property owners are able to negotiate amongst themselves. Often one takes the lead and does all the work, but they'll seek input from a neighbor. So most of these issues are resolved civilly as they're intended to do.
Okay, great. Seeing no more comments, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Councillor Herbert, I get you to wave when you have your hand up because I won't see you if you don't. Go ahead.
Okay.
Next item, your worship, relates to short-term rentals. I have a motion that report PD 2326 relating to short-term rentals be received for information. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, worship. When I read this, we have some friends that travel quite a lot, but what they do, they exchange, they go to their house and then they come to their house. There's no money exchange. This is only when people are charging rent, correct?
Well, this is really like, we're probably not adopting anything according to the recommendations here. right? We're watching how our short-term rentals being handled in our community. A
Okay,
great
okay.
report from our staff saying it's not yet much of an issue as we keep involving new, larger employers. Will this maybe be something we maybe have to trade or track more? But am I reading right that, Lou, is that this is a, hey, we haven't found an issue with you, but we went looking to be sure and we're not finding an issue with it?
Yes, Your Worship. Certainly. The request was made from council just to come back with a report, just to explain, explain the issue of short-term rentals. Is it an issue here in St. Thomas? What are other municipalities doing? So that's what we're doing. That's what we've attempted to do through this report. So in our investigation, there are short-term rentals in the city, not a huge amount, and they're not, they haven't risen to the level where there's been concern from neighbors or any property owners, but it's something worth keeping an eye on and monitoring. And we may at some point in the future, if future council gives direction for us to maybe initiate a licensing bylaw for short-term rentals. St. Thomas is, unlike some of our neighboring municipalities that have high student populations, tourist destinations, that where there is the greater propensity for these types of unit. So it's something that we'll keep an eye on and we'll monitor, and we'll be certainly made aware of. You as councillors will be made aware of, and staff certainly would if it raises to a level where I think we need to come back and initiate some sort of licensing bylaw or some other approach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to recreational backyard axe throwing. I have a motion that report PD 2426 relating to recreational backyard axe throwing be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Okay, questions or comments on backyard axe throwing? Councillor Rymal.
I just have some concerns, and I know it's just for information, and I don't have a problem with anyone wanting to throw axes, but it is a concern when our community is growing and our backyards are getting smaller. You know, you've seen that through developments. Developments are asking for smaller side yards, smaller backyards. And there's no normal, what's a normal backyard? There's no standard for what size a backyard should be, whether you're, you know, throwing an axe or have a pool, etc. And then there's no standard size. What's normal size axe should you throw? Should you throw a small one, a medium one, a great big one? So it's just since it's come to council, it does raise the risk, I think. And then also, I just wouldn't want some child in a backyard, you know, peeking over the fence to see what the commotion is and get injured by an axe. So I think it's just, I think it's good that it came up, and I'm glad we're going to monitor it. But since it's come to council, I think we just need to be, you know, more aware, and that we could monitor it, you know, maybe a little bit more frequently. I would just hate to see that it comes to council when there's been an incident.
Yeah, and it really didn't. It was just somebody who, as you know, any bylaw we pass tends to be reported by neighbor complaint only. It's not like we're out hunting for axe throwers. So I'll ask Lou, and perhaps even the chief is here tonight too. I mean, there's crimes for throwing axes into other people's yards or doing silly things with axes, I suppose. So whether we need a bylaw to outlaw the sport or try and teach common sense, maybe us taking a step too far, but I'll give you, please.
Yeah, well, no, through your worship, but no, it's a good question and one that warrants definitely some consideration. There are a lot of different types of backyard activities, not limited just to axe throwing, but there's recreational activities where people are erecting batting cages in their backyard, you know, golf netting in their backyard.
Yeah.
And there always is a potential that something can go astray and awry and end up in someone else's backyard. Public education is usually something that's the most effective in terms of making sure that people are aware of their space and aware of ensuring that they're taking safety into consideration. We also do have the option, and something like in this case with an axe throwing, that if it was to rise to the level of a complaint coming in, that we would certainly visit with the residents. And we would engage enforcement, and to some extent, we'd even engage with St. Thomas Police Force to attend with us to provide that public education, to look at more suitable options for how they erect the activity if they're going to do it in their backyard, and strongly urge them not to if they don't have sufficient size or sufficient spacing to make it a safe activity. So it's the options for a municipality are: do you just outright ban them? I don't recommend that as a staff person, because that becomes I think
Where do you stop?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
you know, if you try to label everything as a anti-bylaw piece,
Yeah.
you're
So-
never
so-
going to get them all.
Yeah,
So
so I think there's steps that we can take as a municipality to just provide more enforcement, more education and awareness, and work with property owners to help find solutions to resolve some of these conflicts.
I would suggest our Parks Department frowns on axe throwing in our public parks. I would think, right? All right. Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think this is one of those classic cases where between a bylaw officer and a failed at a police officer, if we show up for a courtesy call and say, look, at what you're doing here is do you realize that once we've come to see you, then you still persist with this, then it's willful blindness. You're setting yourself up for all sorts of different legal ramifications for this. I would hope that somebody would, on the first visit, especially after the second visit, will be changing the location of that activity pretty quickly. So I appreciate this, and like us, I think dealing with this in this way is by far the best. The public education, the courtesy call, I think we can deal with 99% of those things this way. Thanks.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Your Worship. You said the chief was there. I'd be curious to see what he thinks of something like that we're going to approve, throwing axes in yards.
Chief, you're up. This will teach you to come to meetings.
Well, good evening. I'm not sure I can add much more than what Lou has added, what Councillor Wookie has added. There's provincial pieces of legislation, the criminal codes, they're available to us. We certainly wouldn't want to take that type of approach for something that's meant for recreation, but if we had to, we would. We would start with perhaps bylaw, those lower level tiered education and awareness campaigns, provide the warnings. If we find that it's a repetitive chronic problem and there's safety at risk for neighbors, then we'll step in and we'll manage that accordingly. So there are pathways through law that we could assist with.
Great. Further questions? Seeing none? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into new business. First item relating to Brownfields Financial Tax Incentive Program through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I have a motion that report PD 1926 relating to a Brownfields Financial Tax Incentive Program through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing be received for information, and further that Council direct administration to proceed with any future submission of a Brownfields Financial Tax Incentive Program application on behalf of the city. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Michelle, great report, but are we making this part of like CIP?
So through your worship, this is sort of in addition to CIP. This is something they have to be approved through our CIP program, but this is through the province, so it's separate from our CIP.
If someone came to us for brownfield pre-study or brownfield remediation as part of CIP, would that automatically turn this on or be made available to them? Are we the conduit for them to find out how to get the provincial funding?
Through your worship, we are the conduit because the application needs to come through us. Okay. So, when someone comes in for a brownfield funding, then we would flag this for them and, provided they meet the criteria, work with them to apply to the province for the additional funding.
Okay, because we have had a few of those of late. Have they been turned on to this, or are we now in the process where we will?
So
Thank
through,
you for not letting Lou talk tonight. No, it's perfect.
so through your worship, so this was actually the application on Center Street that led us to this report. So we can go and we can see if there's others that have recently been approved and alert them to this program and, see if they meet the criteria and then work with them to on applications.
Yes.
But Center Street being the most recent, that's the one that made us aware of this program and led to us moving forward with this report and working towards an application.
Well, thank you. It's great that we found this internally. I've been out searching other levels of government for brownfield assistance, and it actually is there, and it came to us through this. So thank you for catching it and making it work. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a follow-up report relating to proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 417 Wellington Street. Your worship, if I could just separate this into two clauses. The first one, just to receive the report, that report PD 2026 relating to a follow-up report for a proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment at 417 Wellington Street be received for information.
Herbert?
Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Okay. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
And the second, your worship, while the report recommends refusal, council's policy is for all motions to be in the positive. So I'm going to read the motion in the positive, and should council wish to agree with staff's recommendation to refuse, then this particular motion would be lost following a vote. So I have a motion that council approve the site-specific draft amendments to the St. Thomas Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw 50-88 to permit kennel and pet grooming uses at 417 Wellington Street, and further the staff be directed to prepare an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. Moved by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Okay. Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. Of course, with all due respect to the planning staff, this is one where I'd be pleased to let them to give us a try, because as far as I can figure this is a problem for the owners of Elgin Mall, not for us, because it's within their property. It's a constrained property. I can see the problems that might happen, but I also understand that, like, from living here for so long, that particular unit it's been a hard one for them to rent. It's not, anyway, for various reasons, I think this would be a good use, and I'm not sure whether I'd bet on the neighbors within the mall being happy with this, but again, I would certainly be willing to give this a shot to see how it goes. Thank you.
Do you want to respond? I mean, I know you're asking for us to say no. The report says, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. So through your worship to Councillor Wookey, so this is one of those ones where, from a planning policy perspective, like as the planning department, we provide our recommendations based on planning policy. There are certain things that we, aren't able to secure in the zoning bylaw that make it challenging for us to recommend approval. But at the same time, the applicant has provided a noise study. They've provided various mitigation measures they plan to take. And it is in their interest to make sure that the mall is successful. So it's one of those instances where it's challenging from us from a planning perspective to be able to recommend approval. But it is one of those things that there's a variety of sort of non-planning reasons that can also factor into, the appropriateness of certain situations. So, we've recommended some provisions that should council decide to approve the amendments that be included to help mitigate any concerns in such a way that address planning issues as best they can.
Okay. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. If we all remember, the dog kennels operators made a really good presentation. I can't remember, 3 or 4 months ago. And when I read the report, they're trying to make it work. They've agreed to have an outside exit so they don't have to walk through the mall. I don't recall anybody complaining about it, any letters to us saying they didn't like it. And we're not the only mall to have this. So personally, I would support, give them a chance to do it. So that would be my vote, yes, to okay this, let them try it. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship.
I've added syllables to your last name. Yes.
That's right, the empty chair.
Yeah.
I kind of agree that this has been been a hard space to lease out for the mall. And the comment being made that, yes, it is not necessarily in our purview to control this, but it will affect the mall more than us. My question basically is, does this allow the mall to then have numerous other kennels, or is this site specific to only this one particular space?
Help us out.
So through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Taylor, there is a limit in terms of kennel use that would limit the amount of kennel use that could locate on the site to that 560 square meters, which working with the proponent, that is the unit they were looking at, but also allows for the opportunity for an expansion. But it works out to being about 3% of the total floor area of the mall. So yeah, so there's provisions in there to limit it.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll go to a vote. Now remember, this vote is written. If you'd like it to happen, go ahead and vote for A for this. If you'd like us to follow the recommendation of planning staff, then we would vote no. So all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. I guess I should ask for the no's. Thank you. Recorded.
Next item is notice of decision received from the Committee of Adjustment regarding permission for 4 portable classrooms to be erected and used without municipal services at 345 Fairview Avenue. Whereas the zoning bylaw provides that no building or structure shall be erected or used unless serviced by water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer services at 345 Fairview Avenue. That concludes items under this committee. Our next committee, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
Next committee is Community Engagement and Services. Nothing shown on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I do have an item that was out in social media, and I'm going to ask the city manager to jump in a minute, but it's a follow-up to the Health Recruitment Partnership. So I believe it's under this committee. There was a social media post that was recognized by a lot of people in the St. Thomas community, and they did see a CTV News, London News report as well about Thompson Medical Clinics moving into the city of St. Thomas. And the social media report stated that it is opening in July with 5 family doctors. There is also on the social media post a link to application form for people that are interested in applying for one of the new family doctors coming to our area. We talked about it briefly at our Health Recruitment Partnership and saying that it was going to be in the near future, and it happened a little quickly. And so I would ask the city manager for input on the item. Thank you.
City manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council. Yes, echoing the comments from the chair of the Health Recruitment Partnership. This is a development that we're quite excited to see. We've been facilitating this development in the form of kind of in-kind contributions to this proponent. So providing them with connected supports for grants and, EDC advice. The actual funding of the physicians, that's facilitated through the HRP, and that will come forward on a physician basis back to the committee, which will then come to council. So we don't know who those physicians will be yet, but we do anticipate that they are arriving this summer. So we're quite thrilled to see that announcement shared.
Significant work for the committee. Way to go. Next item.
We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to small business recycling. I have a motion that report ES 1326 relating to small business recycling be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought we had dealt with this once before, that we were basically saying it's okay, go ahead. We're not going to do this kind of recycling within 717 small businesses within St. Thomas is what I'm seeing from the report, if that's correct. But it does affect, and I'm a downtown DDB guy.
Right.
And I never, ever thought that it would be such a concern that we weren't picking up recycling in our downtown, because I don't put my recycling out. I take it home and put it in my recycling in my residential. I've always done that because it always got tossed around, or I had to go back the next day and make sure I picked up my bin. But I did get comments from a number of people saying, hey, why did I put cardboard out and it's still there? What's happening? Well, unless you understood that the program is changed dramatically, that our commercial businesses are not getting this recycling, I can understand why. So seeing from some of our downtown businesses asking for it, I'm kind of thinking that we need to rethink this. On the second side is a number of years ago, we were the recipient of some money, I understand, to put in the new garbage bins in our downtown, and half of that garbage bin was recycling. And now I'm understanding that they're not being picked up, or they're being thrown to garbage. I'm assuming that if they're not picking up recycling in our downtown, I don't go out and watch the garbage bins, somebody must, but I'm assuming that that is not happening, which is a shame. So I'm in lobbying on behalf of our downtown area. I would like to see us really, really think this, and I know that there is an item coming up under agenda item 25E, a letter from the municipality of Bluewater asking that the Ontario government be talked to again to see if we can't get this pushed a little further, so that our businesses, our commercial recycling is actually being picked up. So I'm not sure how we're going to go about this. We basically said, okay, we're going to eliminate that. We spent some money putting those new bins out in the recycle center so that you could take it and deliver it. But now that I'm seeing this, there is a problem, especially in our downtown, and it is affecting other small businesses as well. I think we need to rethink this and try to put it back in place somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump in here. It is a mixed match, girl, and part of downtown is residential, and so they still do get pickup. And so I see recycling out that gets picked up, and I think, well, that's a business. You should, under the premise we have. So the report states leave status quo for this year as we had originally thought, then we put it under new business. But it also gives a couple of other options. And if there's another one of the two options in there you'd like to push for, then we can also go that route. But I'll take the other comments first. Councillor Wookey, then Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd like it to be, excuse me, I'd like to offer what they used to have in the parts of the city that used to have it. Because I think for a small business owner, the last thing I want them to do is have an extra hassle about the recycling if they're choosing to put it out in downtown. In my mind, to staff who wrote this, I'd be in favor of the option number 2, bi-weekly for this. And I guess the other question is, Councillor Taylor and I talked about this a little bit before the meeting, that I understand that, like, historically speaking, if you're not in that DDB area and you own a small business, what was happening with your recycling? And I would assume that if it was on, I think if I got this straight, if it was on a route, you would put it out. So if I own an accounting office out of a home, say, I could put it out. I think that's how it worked, but I'm not sure. But I would like there to be as much recycling as possible. I think it's a great program. And I don't want to burden somebody who's already trying to float their own boat as a small business already. So I'd prefer the 19,500, and I'd prepare to make a motion if that is of interest to other folks here, or if other folks have some other position they'd like to
Let's finish
adopt.
our comments and then we'll see. I'm going to go to Councillor Herbert so I don't lose him, and then to Councillor Kohler.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. Well, when I read this, and I have a couple of, like a two-part question. The first part is, it's been in effect now for quite a while. Out of the 717 businesses, how many official complaints have we received, if somebody has that information? And my second part is, we need to support the businesses in St. Thomas. This is probably a mess all through the province, but I was going to suggest option 2. So I would be happy to support that. If there was a motion, I'd be happy to second it. And I'm just curious, how many of the business have officially sent letters to the city requesting a change, that they're having trouble adapting to it?
I don't know who would get that answer from, probably customer service, but
So no one
There we go.
officially.
wait,
sent-
we have an answer.
Okay,
Go.
good. Oh, there we are. Thank you.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Herbert, we've received one letter, the letter that was attached to this, and we've had 2 phone complaints. Didn't submit any form of proper like comments, but just complaining at this time.
So 3 total?
Yeah.
Okay. I see Michelle online. Should it be Michelle that we're asking, or is it? Or you can handle it? Okay, all right. Councillor Kohler, and then I have another comment too.
Thanks, Your Worship. I certainly support the option 2, but kind of going back to your comment about there being residential down there. So the contractors are still going down, I believe, on a bi-weekly basis, picking up recycling from there. So if the owners of the businesses were putting the recycling out front, like how are we going to tell if it's the residential recycling or the businesses recycling to come up with this fee? Why don't the businesses just do what the residential people are doing and putting the recycling out front and continue to pick it up? But I see that's going to be the difficult thing, is how are they going to know which is the businesses and the residential? So at the end of the day, maybe we don't need to do anything, just continue to have the contractor go down and pick the residential up, and the business owners just put their recycling out front where the residential people do.
Yeah, I guess if I can best explain, that's exactly what happened for years here. Businesses were putting out, by getting their own blue box and own gray box, were putting it out at the curb. And as the truck came by, the truck stopped and picked it up because it was on the way by. Only in absolute complete commercial areas, like the one where the old Timken factory, that area, where they completely shut out of having we paid for recycling pickup. They had to find their own ways to handle recycling and either take it out to the recycling yard or bind together and have a commercial pickup. But as near as I can tell from the conversations we've had and the complaints we may or may not have had, two things. One is those that were putting it out on the front, as I think Councillor Wookie said, in a residential area with your business, it's still getting picked up because it looks like another residence with recycling. But other businesses are having to pay now to have it taken away, but they always did have to. It wasn't part of any garbage contract. On my business, for example, I pay to have everything taken away. So, and then we were talking today, the city manager and I, and this is only anecdotal, that even the downtown where we do see the odd blue box go out, I don't know how we tell whether it's an upstairs tenant who's putting out a blue box or the business down below that put out the blue box, but they all do seem to be picked up. Earl, you're absolutely right. Sometimes they're kicked around, and other times you got to come back and find that box someplace else. But your thoughts? Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
No, go, please, it's yours.
But no, the comment regarding the cardboard went out and
Yeah,
did not get
it
picked
didn't
up.
get picked up.
So I don't have any confirmation that the recycling truck actually does a travel up and down Talbot Street, and the business is in behind, the store is in behind if you put it out the back.
Right.
And I don't have confirmation that the garbage bins are being picked up. So
Okay.
I'd like to know that for
Right.
sure. So
I've seen all the garbage bins emptied, both sides, the recycling side and the other side, but I think like you that they're likely being dumped into the same truck. Can you help us with this one? Do we pick up blue box along Talbot Street for tenants above?
Yes, through your worship, it would be hard for Miller to understand which is the residential and which is the commercial.
Right.
So I believe at this time they are picking it up, from my understanding of going out there. Yes, there might be, say, a pizza place that's full of pizza boxes that might be skipped. At this time, no one's called us to complain or tell us, so we don't know. To your earlier comment, Councillor, the public bins are supposed to be picked up by Miller. We'll confirm if they are. It is part of their responsibility to do those. The downtown does currently have an enhanced level of garbage collection.
Yes.
That's 2 times a week. So it is hard to tell if Miller is picking up on the residential or the commercial. We are seeing an uptick of recycling at the community recycling center, which is what we expected.
Right.
But it's still deterring the downtown. It's hard to really associate numbers with who's picking up what.
Earl, sorry, Councillor Taylor, I would agree with you, or it was Councillor Wiki that brought it up, that other communities are finding the same angst as we are in the cross between commercial and residential trash and recycling pickup. But I'm not yet certain I would like to go to a paid service to do it. I'd like a little more information. I'd like to defer the report and have it come back to us with maybe better answers on numbers of complaints. Is Miller willing to carry on the service they're currently doing, which seems to be picking up a fairly large share of it? How long will they keep doing that? And if not, then what else would council have to do? The report came forward here with a dollar amount, or 2 or 3 different dollar amounts, but these are unbudgeted spending, folks. And I'd like in April not to kind of start picking up big bills for 2026 till we're certain that there's a number of people that this would satisfy, or we're not adding residential recycling to the cost of picking up commercial recycling. But I wouldn't mind having this come back with a little more detail if council would live with that. But if not, I'll take your advice. Councillor Rymal.
I also agree with you. It's only been 3 months, that this program has started, because we're just the 1st of April here. And it's a provincial thing. Like, people still think, oh, it's something the city did. Well, we
Right.
didn't. It's the province that mandated this. So any change like this certainly takes time. And it is good to hear that there is a bit of an uptick at the recycling center with some of the recycling. So I just think before we commit money, that when we get farther down in the budget or in the agenda, we'll see that we don't have any, it might be good to wait, and maybe people will get more accustomed to taking their recycling out to the recycling center.
And maybe we can communicate better too. We still have our great communications team who can say, here's what to do, right, to the recycling center, or how to work on it that way. I hate to add anything back to unfinished business, city manager, but I think I'd like to leave this one in that slot for a little while yet and have it come back to council, midsummer or late summer, with what else we've learned since the start of the full cycle recycling, or whatever they're calling it these days.
You need a
Councillor
motion for that? Sorry.
I will in a minute.
Okay.
Councillor Taylor?
Thank you again, Worship. I apologize for not getting all my comments in
Go
once,
ahead.
but under 25E,
Yep.
the Township of Blue Water, Municipality of Blue Water is sending a letter off to the province. Are we able, it'll come up whether we want to support that letter, of course, but are we able to do the same to see if we can't get this?
Well, I've already brought it verbally to our minister and our
Perfect.
member of parliament, as I do, probably quicker than sending letters to the rest of the world. But I think this will continue to be a fairly large comment at AMO. And when we go to AMO in September, I think we'll kind of see a conclusion to this, I think. So, Councillor Herbert, I thought you had your hand. No, you
Yeah,
didn't.
no, I just suggested if you needed a motion for that, I would make it. Sorry.
Okay, so a motion to defer?
To defer.
We already had a motion, so I want to be careful I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. Where am I, Madam Clerk?
Your worship, we do have a motion on the floor just to receive the report.
Okay.
If council would like a separate motion requesting further information, I do have that available regarding the small business recycling.
Let's do that. Can we vote on both at the same time? Do you want to vote on the first one first?
Let's vote on the one just to receive the
Okay.
report, and then Councillor Herbert had indicated that he'd be willing to move the motion requesting further information.
I just have to say how well you keep me in order, and I will miss that type of strategy. Okay, on the first motion, all those in favor? That's receiving the report. Any opposed? That's carried. Now,
On the motion, requesting further information regarding small business recycling, I have Councillor Herbert, mover, just need a seconder. Councillor Rymal, thank you.
okay, questions or comments on this one, knowing that the report we already have will still stay with us. We have it, but further information to come back before it comes back to council. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Beautiful.
Thank you. Next item relates to private property collection agreement for the property at 249 Renaissance Drive. I have a motion that report ES 1126 relating to private property collection agreement for 249 Renaissance Drive be received for information, and for the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the execution of the private property collection agreement with Hayho Rentals Limited for the provision of waste and organics collection at 249 Renaissance Drive. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. This is one of those ones that I get back to where my concerns with parking on condo complexes, because the streets are narrow to start with. And then I'm all in favor of this, but I guess from an engineering point of view, if somebody's parking in a fire route, which would be what it would be, and then the garbage truck wants to go by, my concern is just as long as, I know because people are going to do this in condo complexes, you're going to stop at somebody's place for 10 minutes. You're not going to park someplace else. You're going to park there, put your four-ways on, go in and talk to your friend. Then the garbage truck comes by. So as long as there's room for the garbage truck to get by, if there's a car parked illegally, and maybe people would say, well, no, there's not, because that's not the plan. Well, that's not the way it actually works out in the condo complexes sometimes. So I'm okay with this. I'd just be much more satisfied if I knew that garbage truck plus normal sized vehicle equals street width in a condo complex. And I don't know if anybody can answer that. Thanks.
The minute you say it is, then two cars parked there and it's not. So answer, please.
Through your worship to Councillor Wookey, yes, there is enough room for a parked car and the garbage truck to sneak by.
Great. Because this used to be something we would talk about often in planning, and we don't seem to get it anymore. So our planning department has obviously figured this out. All right. Can I ask a question on the profitability? This is Hayho buying this service from the city. Is that correct?
Yes, it's through your worship. It's an agreement with the city that we operate our waste and organics on their behalf.
Super. Do we, is this a profit center for us? This wasn't something we planned we would do, and now they're doing it and they have to purchase the service from us? You don't have to say the dollar amount so that nobody figures out how.
Don't have that dollar amount. I don't know if maybe Michelle can answer that one.
Oh, I don't need it that bad. I just need to know that this is something we're doing for the good of the community, instead of each of these people putting out a bag of garbage at the main road.
It is a betterment for the community in terms of, or sorry, through your worship, it is a betterment versus having localized garbage collection where you have a row upon row
Right.
of garbage at the entrance to the private development.
Right.
So this is, we're entering the private property. It looks like a normal streetscape as every other subdivision would.
Right.
Versus say a site plan for an apartment building that have row upon row of garbage.
Right.
So it looks better overall for the community.
Okay, great. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Yarmouth Yard Earthworks and Servicing Phase 4 Contract Award. I have a motion that report ID 0226 relating to the Yarmouth Yards Earthworks and Servicing Phase 4 Contract Award be received for information, and further that the tenders submitted by Amico Infrastructures, Inc. in the amount of $4,696,919.82, excluding HST, be accepted. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to St. George and Pearl Street reconstruction. I have a motion that report ES 1626 relating to the St. George Street and Pearl Street reconstruction tender 2026-055 award be received for information, and further council award tender 2026-055 to Russell Construction in the amount of $1,478,891, excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookie.
I think the treasurer is the happiest person in the city about this one. So I'll just say thanks to the, Bank of Kevin for taking care of us. Thank you.
He's a smart cookie, getting all this stuff out early so that it gets the right price. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to 2026 transit vehicle procurement. I have a motion that report ES 1426 relating to the 2026 transit vehicle procurement be received for information, and further, the council authorize the 2026 replacement of one transit bus through the Metrolinx Joint Transit Procurement Initiative. Moved by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Reimel.
Just a question re the cost. It says that the budget includes 380,000 for the replacement, but the cost of the vehicle is 380,000 plus tax, which is about another 50,000. So is there a concern about that extra amount?
Well, we'll ask our treasurer. Although we pay the tax, we get some of that back when we submit to, or?
Thank you, Your Worship. Most of the tax is returned back to the municipality. I think the percentage is 1.76% of HST is not returned back to us. I believe this is a provincial gas tax funded purchase. We do have excess funding in that reserve, so it should cover that portion off nicely.
Okay. Councillor Taylor?
I'm sure it'll be asked, but where are we at purchasing an electric bus instead? I think I know the answer, but I'll ask the question.
Well, I'll give it a shot. Kevin, you and I have talked about this. We continue to look for a Canadian-made or sourced electric bus fleet of our size. There are full-size buses that are electric and available to us. They're not having such a great run in some of the cities that have purchased them, and others are. But we're still looking for our size of fleet that is electrified. Kevin?
That's correct, Mayor Preston, through to Councillor Taylor. And the Metrolinx Joint Transit Procurement Initiative is looking to issue an RFP for small battery electric buses in the near future so that we could leverage that group by economies of scale. I can also say that the transit and technology funding that we received back in 2020, that grant program was extended to 2031 because the province is also aware that small battery electric buses haven't really hit the market yet the way that the larger ones have, providing us that opportunity to continue with fossil fuel for now while the industry catches up.
And we're out right now gaining more knowledge. I know that at the home show this weekend, we'll be talking to as many passerbys as we can about what they're looking for in a new transit system or an adapted new transit system. So we'll continue to suggest electric is in your future, but what else would you like the system to look like? Is that correct?
Mayor Preston, thank you for that segue. So yes, the transit strategic plan and electrification strategy kicks off this weekend at the home show. Where we'll be asking for feedback on what people would like to see out of their transit service, but also set the path forward for the municipality to get to an EV type of fleet for providing transit service, what that roadmap looks like. It's not just the vehicle. How do we charge it? How do we continue service while it's being charged? What kind of infrastructure do we need? What's the cost for that? Figuring out all those questions and bringing it back to council.
Great. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. I'm just going to refresh my memory with you. I think it was quicker the date 2020. Did we not stand out front of City Hall with Jeff Urick? And they were going to give us some funding for electric buses or fleets or things like that? Or
That's exactly what Kevin just announced. Yes.
Yeah, but that was 2020. So, okay. So,
yeah. Yes, they did. And they're allowing us to carry some of it forward or to buy gas-powered buses with it now because there isn't the model of what we're looking for available. But yeah, it was a very great announcement that we were able to make on transit back in 2020.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an encroachment agreement for the property at 25 Williams Street. I have a motion that report ES 1526 relating to 25 Williams Street encroachment be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an encroachment agreement with 25 Williams Street. Moved by Councillor Rymal, second by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to the 2025 fourth quarter budget monitoring. I have a motion that report TR 0826 relating to 2025 fourth quarter budget monitoring be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. I got through you, Worship, to Adam. This is a great report. I mean, we're not used to these reports. It's really good, gives really everybody, the public and ourselves, just where we're at and where we're going. But anyway, so thank you very much for the report. It's well done. A lot of work into it, so thank you.
Yeah, and if I can say the same thing, I think we're kind of used over the last number of years of receiving these reports sometime in August or September. So it's nice to get a fourth quarter report while we're still in the first quarter of the following year. Excellent work and excellent detail. Mr. Treasurer, do you have thoughts on what this means for us? I mean, I recognize you've given us the report and said that this is a deficit of this piece in that quarter, but it's better than it was. Any added thoughts?
Certainly. So I won't minimize the effect of a deficit, but I will say that, 1.3% deficit in the grand scheme of things is relatively low. Do an exercise when you go home tonight. Guess what the price of a carton of milk will be, and then go to the grocery store and see if you're within 1.3%, right? Like, that's essentially what we're doing when we're setting the budget, is guessing what the price of the city service is going to be before the fiscal year starts. So in the grand scheme of things, I think 1.3%, ideally that would be on the surplus side, but we incurred a deficit. It is relatively within the budget that was set by council earlier in the year. That being said, it does attack kind of a weak point in the city's finances, that being tax-funded reserves in particular. So that's what I outlined in my report. What is it going to mean going forward? I do believe council and the city should be looking at a concerted effort to improve that infrastructure reserve, in particular those tax-funded reserves, and build up a bit more of a contingency so that modest to small deficits such as what we incurred in 2025 aren't really a big deal, and they shouldn't be a big deal on the city's finances.
Great. Thank you very much. Councillor Rymal.
I have a number of questions.
Okay. You just wave me off when you're all done.
Okay. No. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, Adam, for the report. It's wonderful, and it's got so much detail that it makes it very clear. And when I was going through it, said something about outstanding projects. Then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be good if there's a list? Well, guess what? There is a list of all the outstanding projects. So I thought it was very, very well done, and very clear too that, the staff do not recommend advancing additional projects during the year unless they're supported by funding. Like, we just don't have the funds to do it. Plus our reserves are low, so we haven't had as much interest from the reserves because they're low. So my first questions are about there's 3 projects on the projects that are, one from 2016, one from 2018. And I just wondered about the status. The one is 2018, the airport plan and design. It was 50,000 at that time, and I wondered why it's still on the list.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing when I read it, so I'm glad you're asking the question. City Manager, or Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. The 50,000 was a deposit by a particular tenant, and the deposit has been going towards engineering and legal reviews. and we still may have one more review to finish the $50,000 out.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one is the 2016 project, the LNPS Rail Trail Project, 285,000 that nothing has been spent on.
City manager, or I'll give it a shot too, but it's before my time. Go ahead. It's before your time too, ma'am. Yeah.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Reimel. This project is related to the LNPS Rail Trail Connection. It requires CN permission and CN approval to reconnect. There's a Canadian Transportation Agency order mandating that reconnection, and CN has failed to allow that connection. So the project has been on hold.
Is it reasonable to expect that it'll ever happen?
Wait, I was waiting for crickets. No. Yeah. Look, we've been fighting this since that date and before that, because we thought we had funding in order to do it for that date. I was the member of parliament at the time and gained a certain amount of federal funding to help this happen. CN has been the bottleneck on it. The agreement with the CTA, the Canadian Transportation Association, about reconnecting the link is between LNPS and CN. And the city has been playing a role in trying to make it happen. I see Kevin behind you nodding his head, because since he became our chief negotiator with CN, he's maybe more frustrated than I've ever been. Look, I'd like to believe all these things can eventually happen. I thought we currently had more leverage with CN since Yarmouth Yards and what we've been doing there, and I thought they would kind of come into play. I continue to meet with CN and their representatives. Mr. Gillibeck does the same thing. AMO has become another spot where I meet with CN each and every year, and always very positive, right, till you leave the room. MP Lawton has also been helping us a lot on his end from the CN too, but it's not moved us much forward, including on the Barwick Bridge. It did help us repair the tracks along First Ave. So that it's not that CN is ignoring us, but that's a piece. And I know that this group, we talked this year about the trail part of that expenditure and moving that trail north along beside where the track would hook up. And I think we have talked some about that, have we not? Yeah, so I don't know, maybe we'll be having to, is there money available for that trail and not just the rail extension? City manager?
Through Your Worship, back to you, I guess. I understand that the funds were actually allocated to some rail trail works that came from the federal government.
Yes.
However, the amount remains budgeted to be completed in the capital budget sheets. So the funds that came from the federal government for the Canada 150 were reallocated at that time.
Right.
My concern too is a project that's 300,000 10 years ago. By the time you get to do it, who knows how much it'll be, it could be extreme. Okay, so my next question is about the Westlake Evans Civic Park by the library. There's still about $600,000 left to go. I'm just wondering what else there is left to go in that project.
You take it, because you and I have talked about it a lot lately.
Yeah, through Your Worship to Council Reimel, there are funds remaining in that project for a piano enclosure, and that is to be spent in 2026 and 27. So I know that Adrian is working on the design for that project, and that it will be tendered shortly.
Okay, my next question on the things is about the Fire Station 2 expansion. I'm just wondering, that was from 2023, and we do have that new fire station that we had done on Queen Street behind the Social Services Building. So I'm just wondering what we were expanding at the Fire Station 2 when we have this additional station almost ready.
Well, two different things. The station on Queen Street was a temporary reach for the northern part of St. Thomas, has yet had to be there in order to fulfill service times. I see the clerk or the chief wanting to get up and help me here. But the extension of 2 had a couple of other reasons. One was to handle the large new foam truck. Am I right?
You are correct, through Your Worship.
Wow, I should play trivia.
Very good. Yeah, so some of the expansion for the Redmond Station is to allow us room to park the new industrial foam truck. So the industrial foam truck was part of the agreement to assist and mitigate any incidents where at PowerCo or the industrial development. So this is a specialized unit that will not fit in any of our current stations. And that project and that funding was for that. And we've been working with Treasury and the city manager right now of what that looks like, and Matt Bile and his team to see where we can go to offset that and to produce that building expansion.
Can I ask you one more,
Yeah.
since you're there? So the next generation, I've been reading about that, and I think it's a wonderful project because it supports wireless phone users, so that, and because right now it's kind of a hardwired system, so that with that NG 911, it supports people who call 911 wireless phones, and it makes the caller's location available to the people on the other end. So I just wondered where you're at with that project.
To your worship, to Councilor Rammel. So we just did the E911 switchover. So this is part of the NG 911. We are a secondary answering service. So the chief dispatch is a primary answering point, and we are a secondary answering point in dispatch. So the NG 911 project is mandated through the province for everybody to be at that. So right now, the next stage, and we're talking possibly June, maybe July at the latest, that the fiber from Bell that's coming from Belmont as the stop where it is right now will be in St. Thomas to do the primary and secondary answering points. And then we'll be fully NG 911 compliant with all the spectacular things that go with it, the location, like you said, and the video and whatever else it does, and the quick response that we can provide to the citizens of St. Thomas.
I just have a question, doesn't have to be to the chief, but because we're trying to look at, we have to look at cost savings and cooperation. I'm just wondering why we have two locations in, it says that, it's municipalities that determine where the public safety answering service points are. And I'm just wondering why we don't have it maybe in one location with the police that has the bigger dispatch center. Like, do we need two locations? Can we have it just in one location and save some costs there?
Through your worship, to Councilor Rammel. So this was something before my time that went to an arbitrator. So this was an arbitrated decision that St. Thomas would keep its dispatch and dispatch for fire. It doesn't say that we can't expand our services to dispatch for other agencies, but at this time there was an arbitrated decision at the time that St. Thomas would keep its dispatch and police would keep its dispatch. And then that was when the funding came in to offset any of the infrastructure for that, but that funding doesn't cover wages and stuff like that.
Okay. So is that something that can be further addressed for cost efficiencies?
Well, as we said, it was an arbitrated decision. So as in our negotiations, we could ask for that to happen in the next negotiations or the one after, but changing back from it after it's been arbitrated is really quite difficult. Council can make the decision to attempt.
Okay, one more question since I've got you there. On the station that we're going to have on Queen Street, that station there, it's just a thought, like, is that somewhere where you're, just to get started, to get your chief prevention officer in there? Because I noticed on your thing, you said you had a lot of costs about, prevention related overtime, sustained inspection, investigation demands, like having that person have a little, even some civilian people to help that person out, doing all these investigations, like set up a little command station and help to try to minimize some of your other costs.
Through your worship, to Councilor, those are great points. To have civilians, that would be something that have to be negotiated within the contract, because again, that's something that was arbitrated before my time, is a contracting out clause. So within our collective agreements, there's a contracting out clause, and to have civilians work within the collective agreement would be in contrary to the collective agreement. With Station 3, I know right now that we have a capital project to go for a fire master plan. And I think some of this will address some of our needs and wants and what we do and how we staff Station 3, Queen Street, which is I'm referring to as Station 3, and what that looks like moving forward. As our growth for Northwest moves on, right now our response times are still really good, but our call volume right now, we're 15% up from what we were last year. Last year we had 35 structure fires, which created a lot of overtime, a lot of things. So the master plan will take all this stuff, and these questions that you have will also be involved in this and what it looks like moving forward. And when we come back with a master plan, we ask council, what's your direction and how do we move forward with that? You're welcome.
Just one more thing, then
I said you could go more. Take
Okay,
10
go more. Okay. Anyway, I just want to, when you look at the list on the page of, how much money people have and forecast deficit budget, Valley View and social services, especially Valley View, has the most staff in any department, I think, in the city. And they are dead on even. So that's a kudos to them because it's very difficult. But they have, as I say, the most staff in the city. So that's an excellent thing. But I think that's probably it for now.
Great, super. Further questions or comments on the fourth quarter report? No, it wasn't the first. Councilor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the treasurer for a very detailed and concise report. And I do recognize that we are looking to bump up our reserves a little bit more. I fully support those initiatives and taking a very deep dive into looking at ways that this deficit can be managed as we go forward. But I also look at opportunities, and I'm going to address these questions to the city manager because there was a couple of recent announcements. So is this budget report and the recommendations that are inside, is it going to impede our ability to apply for grants that might become available? First and foremost, the recent announcement that was done by the province in the provincial budget, and then came forward with a 50-50 funding announcement for new community centers. And then the second, the federal, which more detail was available today, that there is federal funding that's available through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities that has just been identified for other projects. So to the city manager, is this an opportunity for us to explore these options? And is there an opportunity for us to put something on paper for us to take to AMO as well? Thank you, city manager.
Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Baldwin Sands. I believe the two funds that you're referencing is the one that was announced in the Ontario budget, the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Funding. The province committed an additional $300 million to that fund. At this time, staff are waiting for the funding parameters and the guidelines to be released before we bring a recommendation. Typically for those, we try to bring a project that we think is best suited to the grant. So we will compare that against the aims of the Parks and Rec Master Plan and see which one is the best project for that. Also, the federal government today launched the Build Communities Strong Fund. We were excited to see this. This is billions of dollars in funding, particularly for infrastructure. And so we hope that this will help with some of the funding shortfalls, in particular for water, wastewater funding, community centers, and other municipal infrastructure. I think all of these projects, until we see the guidelines for grant funding, it's difficult at this time to make a recommendation on the most appropriate project. Once those guidelines are released, we would have a stronger recommendation for AMO.
Further questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Next item relates to City Council remuneration review. I have a motion that report HR 0826 relating to City Council remuneration review be received for information And further, the council direct administration to prepare amendments to bylaw 66-2019, which is a bylaw for paying remuneration to members of council and appointees of council to reflect an increase to council remuneration to the average of comparator municipalities as outlined in report HR 0826. And further, the council direct that the remuneration adjustments as outlined in report HR 0826 be effective January 1st, 2027. Moved by Councillor Reimel. Seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. Keeping in mind that this does come into play for January 1st, 2027, I support, because I have spent the last 8 years looking around this table and looking at the range of work that has been done, what has been accomplished, how well everyone is working together, the experience, the knowledge, the voices that come to the table, and around the other community tables we are all engaged with. I think that it provides great value to the community, and my thoughts are required to help move this community forward is to continue this level of engagement, and I am pleased to see that this report has come recommending that the increases do occur for our members of council. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Reimel?
Just that I also agree, support Councillor Baldwin-Sands, and it's just part of doing business. You know, when we're looking at the average, we're not looking at above average or below average, but in order to attract and retain, it's different, I guess, than staff, you know, retaining staff, but it's still in order to attract people to want to be on council. I think it's a wise decision.
Further questions or comments? If I can add my part, I will not be here in January of 2027 when this comes into effect. But I will say I've been asking about this and talking about this for the whole 8 years I've been the mayor. I've taken on the job in a full-time pattern. I certainly appreciate that anybody who wants to be mayor in the next time would do it full-time. And the only way to accomplish that with good business people is to have a pay scale that makes that work. I love this council. We've been able to accomplish almost the impossible here in St. Thomas with some of the great things we've been able to work at. But it wouldn't have been possible if so many of you even thought charitably about how you do your job. The time you're giving is well above the remuneration that you are given. And I'm very happy to see this report come forward. I know that, you know, whenever any council gives itself a raise, and we're not, because this is for the next council, then there'll always be someone who say, well, couldn't that money be better served somewhere else? And of course, it always could be. We could find, Adam, how many different ways could you find to spend the money? 100,000 tomorrow. So we get it. But if we're going to keep pace with the communities around us or actually lead them like we have been doing, I think we need to have a council that really, really wants to do it. I would look to the future. If indeed this isn't the way to remunerate council, I want to hear the people say it. You know, I would suggest that in the next term of council, we could look to reduce council by one. If the overall cost of remuneration is too great, then the other way to save the money is to remove a member of council. But I think this council's been so great, I wouldn't want to pick who I wasn't liking anymore. So this is the right way to go. I love the report and will be voting for it and looking forward to who gets to play on the great team of 2027. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? There are none.
Unless there are any further items for this committee, we'll now move into reports pending, unfinished business of council. The members have the briefing memorandum CMO 2426 of the city manager.
Yes, any questions or comments on the city manager's report? Councillor Taylor.
This is an item that's maybe not on this list, but of course, when the topic of unfinished business comes up, I was asked to inquire about the secondary plan. I don't know whether this is a topic that can be discussed under this item, but I was asked just for an update as to where is that at again, of course.
Great. Lou? Sorry, Mr. Pompili?
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Taylor. Yeah, no, we're still having discussions with the Doug Terry Group and their team. We're putting together, we have a draft memo of understanding that's going back and forth that we're negotiating, that we will be bringing to table, but that we will be bringing forward to council that addresses the financing of that study. So that's why it's in a bit of a holding pattern right now. So we had a very productive meeting about a week or so ago, and ball is in their court. We're waiting just to hear, get feedback from a draft memo of understanding that we have in terms of dealing with some of the recouping some of the financing for undertaking that study. As soon as that's complete, we'll bring that forward to council and then get things going.
Lou, the piece we heard earlier today on brownfields, that would be very helpful in the secondary plan for the railway lands also?
Yes, Your Worship, if provided that that they make a CIP application, which I believe they would to do some of the remediation, absolutely it would be.
Great. That answer your question well enough, Earl? Great. Further questions or comments on unfinished business or questions of the city manager? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I was wondering, because of the events and the overwhelming response that we had last year for the National Truth and Reconciliation, that is underneath one of the items, that the entire street being closed off, the number of people that came. I was wondering if there's any recommendations from the overwhelming response, especially from children from schools that attended the event. What sort of things are we looking forward to next year? And also, because Earth Day is coming up, I was hoping to get some sort of indication of what sort of events are happening in the community for Earth Day. Thank you.
City manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Baldwin-Sands. For Earth Day, there are organized cleanups happening throughout the community. The municipality, we will make supplies available to people interested in participating in cleanups. At the leadership team meeting just last week, we all agreed to have each of our respective departments and units go out and participate in a cleanup that day, and supplies are being provided by ESD and our Parks and Rec. In terms of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, there is a small working group that is planning next year's event, and they are, again, planning a large event for the full day. They're looking at utilizing both Talbot Street and Westlake Evans Park as possible sites, and bringing in more seating for the students, especially because last year we learned they were kind of sitting in the sun and there wasn't much shade, and so we want to make sure that it's more comfortable. But same sort of planning for a full day of activities.
Okay. Further questions under new business or anything else for the city manager? Councillor Rammel.
It's not the this unfinished business, but it's just back related to the budget part. And I understand, Chief Gregory, you weren't a chief, in this arbitration, but how do we, as a city, we want to be as budget friendly as we can and cooperate and, look at all sort of brainstorming and other initiatives to try to, how can we minimize costs and share services and do whatever. So in the instance of, the NG 911 or having civilians and fire, like when there's an arbitration award, I understand that. It's like as a door shut, is that it? Like, how do we want to cooperate and try to, we want to, follow the rules, but we want to be able to look at options for trying to reduce costs or share services. Like, how do we do that? We just don't, or
No.
are there any options?
Yes, council's always got the option of saying, let's look at this. But we can't go back and reopen an old contract that's been arbitrated and shut. But we can, as a council, and I think during this year's negotiations or this year's budgeting and the year before, we looked a lot at contracts that were available or that were still being negotiated, and which way this council set parameters, if you will, and which way to, how high to go or how low to go or what to ask for. So yeah, it's still our purview to do it. But but many of the, certainly Ontario-wide or Canada-wide contracts of fire and police are based on what happens around us, not parameters we set. That may be a better way for me to put it. Councillor, City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Council Reimel. Staff could provide a report that looks at the wording of the arbitration and the decision itself and explore any opportunities there would be for cost savings. That report will likely have to come into closed session as it deals with labor relations, but if it is the direction of this council to proceed with a report, we'd be happy to provide something at a subsequent meeting.
Well, I'd like to suggest we have a report so we can look at options. You know, there's just, what are the possibilities?
I agree. You have more?
If I may, if we could have that endorsed as a resolution, that'd be preferred.
Okay,
I'll second that.
great. Further questions on the motion to put this as one of our unfinished businesses or a report due back to council? Am I wording that right? Thank you. All right. No further comment. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, council will reconvene into regular session. I have motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. At this time, we have the report of the police chief to the Police Services Board regarding the 2025 year-end operational and capital budget financial analysis.
Questions or comments on the report? Or Chief, is there anything you'd like to share with us on it, or you're letting it sit as reported? It's pretty comprehensive. So, thank you then. All right, next.
Next is a letter and copy of the Integris 2025 Year in Review report that has been received from Tomo Matesic. He's the president and CEO of Integris Inc., and that's for the members' information.
Comments? Councillor Woodkey?
Thanks, Your Worship. As one of the representatives at Integris, myself and Councillor Clark, Tomo is the new CEO. He has just been recently hired, and as a part of the Governance and Compensation Committee, I was on the hiring team. And he's an internal candidate and brings a lot to the table for the company. If any of my colleagues ever have any questions about the Integra stuff, you can feel free to contact me individually or as part of a council meeting. I'll tell you the summary of things is that every 5 years, Integris has to apply for a cost of service agreement. They have to settle that with the Ontario Energy Board. It's a very complex process. There's a lot of negotiating, and we just were successful in getting that done, and it was exemplary. As far as that goes, then May 1st is when the new rates would start. There's going to be communication from Integris and communication through the City of St. Thomas. When we merged with them back in 2017, I guess, there were two separate rate zones that were maintained for rates in St. Thomas and for, say, down Chatham and Strathroy, et cetera. Those will now be merged as per the agreement with the Ontario Energy Board. So that will have a material effect on St. Thomas, because we had, as I understand it, a preferential rate for some time after the merger. But now those get folded in because we've just done this cost of service agreement and it's all one. That will be communicated out through Integris and through, and the city manager and I have been in communication regarding this, that our team will also be communicating this out. Needless to say, we will get some, people will be very interested in this because it's an increase in hydro rates, but that's, to understand this, you have to understand that the province of Ontario has required all utilities to make their poles and wires more resilient to weather events, climate change, et cetera. That costs money. And so this is just part of what happens in the world of maintaining the light switches being on in St. Thomas. But if anybody in the public or around the table here has any questions or comments, like I'd be willing to sit down with you. And Tomo would be willing to meet with us at any time that we wanted to as well. Okay? Just so everybody knows that. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions of Councillor Wookie while he's willing to answer yours? Councillor Raimel.
Just one, with the EV charging stations, is that an Integris program, or is that a city program, or is it a partnership?
Your Worship, can I answer that?
Yes, please, go ahead. Sorry, I was
Thanks.
trying to wave you with this hand while I was fixing a problem on the other end. Multitasking over here.
What happens with Integris is we being Integris that I'm on, they are not, we're not in charge of putting EV stations up. We are in charge of facilitating that there's going to be hydro to those EV stations. So through what the analysis is, it's very interesting, is that as the penetration of electric vehicles increases and as people with their heat pumps in their homes increases, and what's happening is new transformers are having to be put in neighborhoods. And no one knows where electric vehicle is going to be purchased, but that we do find out after the fact of where it's been. And so what happens is you're having to, instead of a transformer for every 15 homes, you might need a transformer for every 8 homes. So Integris is having to go in and order and put new transformers in to facilitate this. They can predict where they're going to need those, but you don't know until it happens. And so that's some of the activity that's going on. And it's not like transformers can appear, you can't go to Walmart and buy one. So in terms of all that process, it is a lot of money for Integris, but it's for a great benefit. In fact, they showed us a chart one time that said, down the road, once there's full integration of EVs and heat pumps, the max load that will be demanded by the public, instead of it being 3 o'clock in the afternoon on July 27th, it'll be 11 p.m. on January 27th. It's a very interesting how the whole market is changing and flipping over. And of course, that requires investments, smart switches, all those things that happen in a regulated utility to make that work for everybody. So that's kind of how that's working with the EVs.
Was he complicated enough in his answer? Thanks, Steve. That really did help because we have to face both of those things. The electricity usage in St. Thomas is growing, right? And not just by new development, but by what we're now doing in our older homes too. Further questions or comments? Seeing none.
We'll now move into communications. First item is a request from the Guillain-Barré Chronic Inflammatory Demyelinating Polyneuropathy Foundation of Canada for a proclamation and jumbo lighting. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 2026 as Guillain-Barré Syndrome CIDP Awareness Month in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit for the week of May 4th to 8th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Raimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation, flag raising, and jumbo lighting from Victim Services Elgin. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 10th to 16th, 2026 as Victims and Survivors of Crime Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Victim Services Elgin flag be flown at City Hall from May 10th to 16th, 2026, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal for the week from May 10th to 16th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Raimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation and jumbo lighting from the co-chair of Walk for Values. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Human Values Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in red on April 24th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Raimel, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a copy of a resolution from Township of McNabb Braeside regarding the Ontario Heritage Organization Development Grant. The next item is a copy of a resolution from the municipality of Blue Water regarding the collection and processing of blue box materials from non-eligible sources. Next item is a letter received from the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority regarding the proposed consolidation of conservation authorities in the Eastern Lake Erie region. And the last item is a letter received from the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility regarding the 2026 Seniors of the Year Award. More information is available on the ministry's website, with the deadline for nominations being April 15th, 2026.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. On that item, I was hoping that we could share it with the St. Thomas Senior Center and also make it available on our website as well, social media platform.
I'm
Thank
seeing
you.
nods from the city manager, even from where I sit. So we will do so on both those counts.
Your worship, unless there are any items from the members, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. And seeing no items, we'll now move into new business of council.
Anybody have any new business? I have a couple. First of all, but they're both retro. Last weekend, the Downtown Development Board did their Easter shop hop with the Easter Bunny visiting many of our local stores and handing out many treats to kids. And I'd like to thank them for all those that did that work. And I understand our local fire service was also helping with the delivery of the Easter Bunny. And also want to thank our group from the Kinsmen and the great work they do in our community for everything. But their Easter egg hunt every year just keeps getting better and better in Pinafore Park. And wanted to thank them for all of them. Not a fantastic weather day, but how many happy smiling kids we saw out there with the Easter Bunny and Easter egg. So I wanted to thank both of those community groups. Seeing no other new business?
We'll now move into public notice. The city hereby provides notice of its intention to adopt bylaws to establish 2026 property tax ratios and property tax rates at its meeting to be held on Monday, April 20th at 5 p.m. Meeting is available in person or via Zoom, which you can access through a link on the city's website. No notices of motion. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Reimel.
Well, thank you. Before I call for the vote, I'd like to thank our extra double-sized audience in the gallery tonight. Thanks. And for all of you watching at home and for many of our directors here in the chamber with us and online, thank you all for being here at this meeting. We'll be going into closed session. We'll rise from closed session only to finish the business that was accomplished in closed session and to adjourn, pass our bylaws and adjourn for the night. So all those in favor of closed session? No one opposed? That's carried. I'll meet you next door.
Your worship, at this time, I have motion that council rise from closed session. Moved by Councillor Reimel, second by Councillor Gibson.
What a great idea, rising. Further discussion or comment on rising? Seeing none, all those in favor? We have risen.
Next order of business, our bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands. Second by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Reimel, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have the first bylaw, please?
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 7th day of April, 2026.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, those opposed? In favor, those opposed? Sorry. Carried. The next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Unifor Canada and its local 27. This relates to Valley View Collective Agreement.
Questions or comments, please? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Third bylaw, please. Thank you.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain memorandum of understanding between the city and the Electrical Safety Authority. This relates to data sharing.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed? Carried. I rise and report the successful passing of the three bylaws.
Great work.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Rymel, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the three bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items in open session, your worship. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Great. Questions or comments on adjournment? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Smooth.